So think about getting a terrible performance review and there's nothing you can do about it. And HR is not going to save you. What's next?
Wow. We're going to get into this subject. This is Chronicles of the Inside Guys in Tech Sales. Stay tuned. Hey guys, we're back. It's the Inside Guys. We've got Wole. I'm David. We want to talk not only about the highlights of tech sales, but also the lowlights. So we're going to do Chronicles of the Inside Guys, which is going to give you a short story about something that happened to us that we really want to share with everybody. So Wole, let's start off with something that you wanted to talk about, and that's one of the worst times you had in tech sales. I'll let you start off and tell us about that.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah, good to talk to you about this. And listen, I'm going to first say that this is something that I have not shared with very many people. So very few people have even heard this story that I'm going to share. But in the spirit of not just sharing the highlights in my career, I think the lowlights are where I definitely learned from and that others can learn from. So we're going to share some of those too. I haven't shared this story with many people because, to be honest with you, it was a little bit embarrassing to me. But I'll go ahead and open up and be vulnerable right now and share it. So, the story I want to talk about is me getting a bad performance review. And this was several years ago in my career. It was the first time that it had happened for me. And the worst part about it is that I was completely blindsided.
Mm,
So you know how it works. We typically have biweekly one-on-ones with our managers, and so I had one-on-ones with my managers every 2 weeks, and there were no issues. Everything was good. She never indicated that there were any problems with my performance, and so I thought I was on track. And then at the end of the fiscal year, I got my performance review, and it was a horrible one.
wow.
So it was something that completely caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say. I questioned her. I went through all the things that someone would go through when you see a review like that.
Right. And you basically, I mean, at this point in your career, you had years and years of good performance reviews, good reputation,
Right.
and at the time where you worked, like you said, there were checkpoints along the way that ensured that you had a good communication feedback with your manager. So this was totally out of the blue.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's to me that was the most egregious thing about it because I didn't see it coming. There was no negative feedback along the way. And so I went back and forth with that manager for a little while to try to get her to change that review because you know how it works. The performance review is that's important because it's not only it not only affects compensation, but there's a reputational component as well. When you want to move around and get new roles, people look back at your older performance reviews, and
Right.
so
That's a permanent record.
it's on your record. So I went back and forth with her, and I just kind of got corporate speak, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um,
Reading from the script.
Yeah, read it from the script exactly. And so ultimately, I felt like I had no choice but to escalate. And so I escalated to her manager, and I got more of the script, the corporate script. And then for me, it was so egregious that I did something that I never done before. I went to HR.
Whoa, that's right. Pulling the big guns, right?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I would be a person who would go to HR, but to me it was that serious. Like as I said,
Right.
I had no feedback. I didn't see it coming. There was nothing previous to this that would for me justify that kind of a
Right.
performance review. So that's I can say this. That's the first and only time I've ever even talked to HR in my career.
Yeah.
Thankfully, but unfortunately, nothing really came out of that conversation with HR. Um, HR, as I say, is not your savior. I tell people this, and I don't know
Yeah.
if any of the viewers here work in HR, but ultimately, let's keep it real here. We know that HR's job is to protect the company.
Oh yeah.
There's some they will say some things to make you feel that they're there to protect the employee, but ultimately, I mean, we're adults. We know that they're employed by the company and they're there to protect the company. And
That's right.
so the person I spoke to, my HR advisor, she kind of let me know like, hey, you can pursue this, and these are the paths to pursue this. But she pretty much let me know
A
in
hint,
her
hint,
way that, what was that?
hint, hint. Be
She gave
careful.
me a hint, which I
Yeah,
appreciate the way she
yeah,
did it. She let me know this probably would not, it would probably not be a good route for you to pursue this. It may not, in the long run, end up well for you.
right.
So I just had to essentially eat it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. And just to be clear from our viewers, sometimes it is very appropriate to go to HR and you have to, and at other times it's a judgment call. So for you, you saw that, okay, you went to HR, but you didn't want to pursue it any further. So what happened after that, after you kind of got a hint from the HR advisor not to pursue it that way?
Yeah. So, and let me tell you another part of the story. This is another interesting thing that happened, and this must have happened. So something I had done right, just it had to be within days or maybe no more than a week prior to me getting this performance review. So there was a particular manager in a different part of the organization. There was a VP in a different organization who I worked with a lot, or I worked with her team a lot in the role that I was in. So I wasn't part of this other VP's team, but I worked with her team a lot, and I'd sort of seen her from afar. And so I really liked her and I respected her in all my interactions with her and all the feedback that I heard from her team. And
Yeah.
so, about maybe, like as I said, a week or less than a week from the time I got this performance review, coincidentally, I had reached out to that manager, to that leader within another part of our organization, and I just sent her an email saying, "Hey, one day I'd love to work for you." And
Mm,
I didn't mean like, I meant kind of in the future. I
yeah.
wasn't, I was just expressing that I thought highly of her, and
Right.
I'd love to work for you one day.
That was part of your active networking that we talked about.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, it wasn't. It was just really me being honest. But to your point, yes, it's always good to have to nurture different networks
Yeah.
across the organization, and to have different potential places you might want to work, and to let them know that, and let them and to expose yourself to them and make sure they're exposed to you.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to her, and when she got back to me, coincidentally, it was after I had received this
Uh,
performance review.
yeah.
So now I'm in a situation where I had already sort of. And by the way, she got back to me and she said, "Hey, that's great. I'd love for you to be part of my team as well. By the way, we have a role on my team right
Wow.
now
Yeah.
that I'd love for you to consider interviewing for."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so here I am. I'm in this situation where I got this terrible performance review, which I looked at as a stain on my reputation, and going into a new interview or talking to a new person, that has to be part of the conversation. She's going to find that out.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, now I have to respond to her, but I have to tell her about this horrible performance review.
Yeah.
And so, and here's another funny thing that happened. So around that time, there were different people in other parts of the business who had been actively recruiting me. And there was a different leader in a different part of Microsoft who had been telling me to, hey, I'd love for you to come work on my team. But I had no interest at that time. When I got this bad review, I said, okay, maybe the time is right. So I reached back out to him, and I didn't get any response. Like
He ghosted you. He just shut it
he
down. Yeah.
the same
Right.
person who had been pursuing me
Right.
ghosted me. So now I'm feeling a lot of stress. I'm in this organization. I'm working for a person who gave me a horrible review, which was a blindside.
Yeah.
Another person who had previously tried to recruit me is no longer responding. And then I have someone who I reached out to proactively who expressed interest. But now I feel like I have to crawl and say, hey, but yeah, I got this. I'm
Right.
coming with this horrible performance review. So it was just all around a bad situation for me.
Right.
However, I did go ahead and have a conversation with her. So I had a call, I made a call to her, I still remember the situation. I remember
And
where I was when I was.
you don't really know her technically. You don't have a long relationship built with her, but she did know of you. Is that
She
right?
knew she knew of me. She knew of my work. I work closely
Okay.
with her team, and we'd been in meetings together. So, so anyway, I did a call with her, and the first thing I said was, I don't want to. I'm about to say her name. I don't want to say her name. Um, Maybe one day she'll see
The
this
names
video.
have been changed to protect the innocent.
Exactly. So I said, "Hello, so and so. I'm following up on the role on your team. I'm super interested, but I need to let you know about this bad review I just got."
Yeah.
And
Be
so she
transparent up front,
had no choice. So
Right.
she paused. I mean, think about what I'm feeling at this point. Like, I feel like my career's on the line. Here's a
Right.
potential lifeline, but I have this smear
Right.
my record that I had to transparently talk about. So I brought it up, and so when I told her about that, she paused for a second and she said, "Wole, are you interested in this role?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Okay, I want you to interview. I'll make the judgment myself,"
Yeah. You
which
feel
was
good. Yeah.
for me amazing. I just breathed out a big sigh of relief, man. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't. I was kind of expecting the worst, but she gave me a chance, and so I went on to interview for her for the role on her team, and I got the role. And I can tell you this: it's one of the best roles I've ever had at Microsoft. She
Nice.
is still
Nice.
to this day one, or if not the best one or two managers I've ever worked for. I will say that my current manager is a great manager as well. In case she sees this video, she's up
Let's
there as
be
well.
let's be clear. Let's
Let's be
be
clear about that. But this particular manager I'm talking about, she gave me a chance, and I did well on her team, and and I felt like I owed it to her, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then another interesting thing along the way that happened. So when I ultimately when I got the role on her team and I accepted the role, I told people in my current organization that, hey, I'm changing teams. I'm moving to this new team. I'm going to work for so and so. And here's the funny thing: I don't think I ever told her this. I was warned by a few people in my current team not to go work for her. Uh, yeah, they were saying that. So they were saying she's scary, because
Yeah.
this particular manager her personality was very direct. She's like a very direct speaker,
Right.
and you kind of always knew what she was thinking. She made sure you knew what she was thinking,
No
and so
sugarcoating. Yeah.
no sugarcoating. But for me, like, my philosophy, this is another lesson that I think can be learned from this is I don't let other people's opinions necessarily guide what I do. I like to evaluate people for myself, and so um, as a matter of fact, by telling me that she was a very direct person, that actually was good. That was great for me because that's my personality as well. And then also, I'd been in a situation where I was dealing with a manager who had not been direct. I had just been blindsided. So I
Right.
kind of like managers who let you know where you stand all along the way.
That was favorable to you, that communication style. You had no problem with that.
Exactly. And one thing I'll say is that a lot of times I've noticed that I've had a lot of women managers, and so unfortunately, when in my experience, when a woman is very direct and very to the point, they get a negative perception. They're judged differently than if it's a male leader who's very direct, and so
Interesting.
I kind of knew that as well. So I took that feedback with a grain of salt, knowing that. In the end, it all worked out really well for me, but it started
Good.
out with something that was, personally, I was humiliated when I got that performance review. I didn't know what was going to happen next in my career. Was I going to be able to get any types of roles that I would want
Right.
in the future? But in the end, it worked out.
That's good. That's a good story. Yeah, I didn't even know that had happened to you. And like you said, you rebounded, kept moving. And it's a good note to all our viewers too. If you get a bad review, it's not the end of the world, but you need to have a strategy. If you've been properly networking in advance, then you can fall back and use that network to, if you need to, get out of that situation. I've also seen where you get a bad review, then that manager moves on, right? And you can stay on the team. A lot of different scenarios, but you took advantage of the fact that you had built a good network and you had a good reputation and a history of good reviews. So this one really stuck out, and you're able to quickly rebound. So that's awesome,
Super.
man. I learned something new about you.
Super important. Super important. Yeah, man. It's all about sharing and being vulnerable. Very few people prior to this, me making this video, knew this story. Maybe two friends, two close friends who were around me at that time.
Yeah.
I shared with. But hey, it's all about. I think these types of stories will help others. So I don't mind putting myself out there.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I wish I had something bad to share, but I just haven't. I'm going to
We all
share.
do. I'm sure you do.
I'm going to share one of my bad experiences on our episode 2 of Inside Guy Chronicles, because I do have a one that really made me think back. That kind of turned and where I wanted to do in this industry. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this experience. I think it's going to be really beneficial to a lot of our viewers. Anything closing you'd like to say?
Well, the only thing I would say is it did feel good to open up and be vulnerable. I hope some others get some benefit from this. But I would like to see some comments from others. Have you been in a situation where you got a bad performance review, either expected or unexpected? How
Yeah.
did you deal with it? Please put in some comments. Share your perspective on how to deal with the situation like this, how to bounce back. We'd love to see your feedback on that as well.
And if you have any questions about the situation or anything else, feel free to drop us a note in the comments. Again, this is the Inside Guys, and look forward to the second Chronicles of the Inside Guys coming up next. Appreciate you guys' support. Take care.